And I'm just going to read a couple of pages from chapter 4, which is about chapter 3 of Job, which is where the Job narrative transfers from the sort of simplistic frame to the very difficult poem. And this is about how I think we're supposed to experience that. The subtitle of the section is Patience, Patience. Imagine that you're watching an old, silent, black and white movie with no soundtrack. The film is grainy and inconsistent. The characters are barely developed. The acting is abysmal, and you can only discern a few basic elements of the story. Then, about 10 minutes into the movie, everything changes into a high-end IMAX production with a high-resolution color video and digital surround sound. Accompanying the technical change, the acting suddenly gets good, and the characters become interesting. Now, you can see that a few of the actors look a little bit like the ones in the old black and white movie. Characters appear to have the same names. You know that you were watching a completely different movie. This is the sort of transition we were supposed to experience between the second and the third chapters of the book of Job. Job frame employs intentionally archaic language to tell an old story very simply. Its main character, Job, is flat and predictable. When he loses his children and all of his property, he just shrugs his shoulders and offers up a tepid little bit of doggerel verse. Naked came I into the world, naked will I go out of their glory, give the name of the Lord. He completely trusts God's justice, even in the matter of whether his own children will live or die. He never once asks why he suffers. He never complains. He never expresses even a faint desire that his situation might be different than it is. When his wife urges him to blaspheme God and die, all he can say is, should we accept only good from God and not accept evil? And then we switch to the IMAX version. Everything changes in chapter 3. The weak prose becomes strong poetry. The flat characters all become well-rounded and interesting. And Job, who was just singing ditties about being naked and happy, spends the entire chapter cursing his very existence. And I quote here, you can read that yourself, but he's condemning his birth and his mother's womb and her breasts and the day of his conception and wanting it all to be blotted out of the world. The parallel structure in these lines all work to intensify Job's suffering. This is an important element of Hebrew poetry that comes through in good translations. As the poem progresses, each verse tries to outdo the previous one in cursing various aspects of Job's conception and birth. The amplification goes on so long that it threatens to turn into a sort of grotesque gallows humor. Yeah, I cursed the bad reruns of MASH that made my parents go to bed early that night. But we know that Job has just lost 10 children and all of his possessions and been stricken with sores all over his body. We know that as he speaks these words, he is sitting outside and scraping himself with a jagged piece of pottery. We know we have nothing to laugh at. Job 3 is the first part of the extended dialogue between Job and his three friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, who have traveled from their homes to comfort him. According to the frame, they have been sitting silently for 7 full days, just commiserating with their companion. When he begins to speak, they feel compelled to answer, and this sets up 3 rounds of speeches, 17 in all, in which Job debates his comforters about his own innocence and the meaning of his suffering. Eliphaz and Bildad speak 3 times in each portion of the poem, Zophar speaks twice, and Job speaks a total of 9 times. In each speech, Job addresses his comforters and God and demands to know the reason